Welcome back, my love.
Thank you.
We are here to talk about your expertise, primal body mapping. What is it?
Hmm. Well, simply put, it is an intuitively guided approach to reconnecting to the body and to the stored emotions that are held there. And it is an opportunity to meet those stored emotions with a lot of inquiry, curiosity that then allows the holding patterns to release and for us to return to our natural selves, our inherent, natural, flowing, radiant self.
So you said a few things in there. I'm curious if you could take us through the basic framework or the basic vision of how holding patterns or emotions stored in the body works. What is that about for someone who might not be familiar?
Yeah. Emotions stored in the body, I think, just on a very simple way of putting it, is speaking to any event, any time in our life where we had an emotion arise, but didn't have the space, the container, the safety to have it move and express all the way through. And then the body has held that incomplete expression that shows up as tension, discomfort. Some thoughts would even say disease. And so, yeah, it's really this very intelligent mechanism in us that goes, oh, there's enough space or safety here to express fully. So I will hold it and place it somewhere for a later time.
Mm,
And so that later time can be something like coming into a primal body mapping practice or experience. It can also be that it happens spontaneously. Often, like practices like breath work or movement and dance can bring spontaneous expressions of held emotion. And so, really, what I'm pointing to there is that the body holds it until it has the space and the resourcing to release it.
totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And we can hold them for decades.
Yeah.
And what are some of the potential effects or, um, you know, yeah, what are some of the potential effects of holding emotions and not releasing them?
Mm.
Like, what do you see?
Mm. Well, part of what I alluded to previously was tension in the body. So, places where we experience a lot of literal tension, like tissues that are tight and bound and wound, organs. I believe it's Chinese medicine that speaks to this premise around like the organs will cry the tears that we don't cry.
Mm.
So our organs, and it can really impact our nervous system as well, what's held there and what's running our system, which then influences our perception and what we project into the world.
So are you talking about when you're saying our organs cry the tears that we're not able to express or cry? Is that something like we might start to develop sickness or physical symptoms from emotions that are unexpressed? Is
Mm-hmm.
that the connection you're making?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen it in my body, many different versions of that, either presenting through the gut, like intestinal expression, IBS, and ulcerative colitis, things like burnout, very much something addressing the kidneys, often something rooted in fear, chronic tensions and pains, also that. And yeah, so there are ways that I believe the body creates symptomology not as a place and as a point to create suffering for us, but really to wake us up and to bring our attention back into the physical experience that also encapsulates our emotional experience. Because emotions, they are energy moving in our body, and they manifest themselves, I believe, physically and also mentally. We can have different expressions of what happens mentally as a result. But very obviously, the physical will hold that energy of an emotion that hasn't been channeled all the way through and try to find its way out. I get the visual of like a river that comes up against a dam, and it's going to find a way to get around the dam and to still have energy moving, even if it's in ways that are more laborious or inconvenient and not really in accordance with natural flow. But that is the wisdom of our body and of intelligence, is it wants to flow and it wants to move out. So symptomology is definitely a big one through the physical body. Yeah.
So it's like when we're storing emotions in the body that we're not aware of because they were compartmentalized or held because we didn't have the bandwidth at a certain time when an event took place that generated the emotion. Mm-hmm. We didn't have the space, the safety, the resources to process at that time. So the body, in its intelligence, stores the emotion in a way for a later date, and is somehow primally seeking to express it. And so we end up potentially expressing it in our lives, whether that's in our intimate relationships or in our process of attempting to self-actualize our dreams and goals and purpose. And we may feel cognitively like our selfhood is moving towards a goal or towards a template of action in our life, but our body is trying to guide us towards releasing the stored emotions. And so it's trying to create opportunities for us to release those emotions, which could that show up as like, yes, we just talked about it could show up as like physical symptoms, but could it also show up as like, I don't know, drama or, like problems in relationships that maybe there's a intelligent aspect of our body that is guiding us in our own internal system, but we're not necessarily conscious of it because consciously we're trying to act in accordance with our goals. But there's a part of our system that is at a deeper intelligence than a goal-oriented system or an egocentric goal-oriented system where we want to accomplish. And it is trying to keep us in homeostasis, right? And it's trying to keep us healthy and in balance. And part of that process is it's trying to get us to release the stored emotion.
Yeah.
Is it like that?
Yeah. And what you're speaking to, this other aspect, is our subconscious mind.
Yeah.
And so that's where all of the programming and conditioning is. It's where the blueprint for how we are presenting in the world now is stored, but also the blueprint for our self-actualization is also there. So what the unconscious mind will do is it will hold anything that it believes will be too disruptive to bring up in the moment now, but it is also waiting and ready for the environment and the people and the resources that can support the release of anything that's been held. So it ultimately wants us to be healthy and well and thriving. And that sometimes can look like repressing an emotion or a memory so that we don't become too disturbed. So in coming into the body and starting to create safety and reconnection and actually an invitation to begin to receive more from it, what we're communicating to the unconscious mind, also subconscious, they're the same thing. What it communicates is, oh, okay, there's actually an invitation here to begin to bring things up from the archives that are ready for resolution. And in that way, it's a powerful mechanism because our unconscious mind really does desire for us to be really well and healthy and resourced. But it also waits for our invitation to do that. And is very, very good at following commands. So all that to say, like the practice of coming into that relationship with the body again is teaching the system once again that wherever we have left in the past or dissociated, that there's now a new pattern that's being created, a new relationship that's being restored. And ultimately it communicates a desire to know oneself better and to self-actualize beyond the patterns that have been held. And the word that I want to come back to is it's looking for and always in favor of resolution. And I think ultimately that's what happens when someone experiences primal body mapping. We have this experience of resolution that comes through, not through an intellectual process of this happened and this happened and this makes sense because of this, but really a body, an unconscious mind knowing, which is connected, I believe, to like our self, the bigger S self, that then can bring in wisdom as the resolution comes, which creates a lot of freedom. Because in that way, it decenters the I that had the experience and releases any places where stories around the world or ourselves were created, and instead lifts us out of that, has us come back to a greater sense of self and understanding that then gives us, yeah, just more fodder for moving forward and more information as to how that experience in our life can actually serve our now service and our now becoming.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you're saying is quite profound in the frame that it relies on, which is that, you know, we have these different ways of trying to look at life and what succeeds and what doesn't succeed and why things occur and why things reoccur, or why we go through cycles. And maybe we say it's the planets and the stars, or it's karma and it comes from your past life, or it's statistics and probability, or it's market cycles, or it's seasons, or it's the age you are in life. We have all of these different frames for going, this is why this happened, and this is why this didn't work, or this is why it finally worked, that are macro frames or cosmological frames. And I think what I find so beautiful about coming into, we'll just call it the primal body, and coming into awareness that, I think in pop psychology, for instance, there's a big talk about how we sabotage things, right? About how we sabotage things in our life. And this primal body reframe is that we're not sabotaging anything. There's no sabotage going on. We're never trying to sabotage something. What we're trying to do, what our primal body is trying to do, is utilize a present situation to express a previously unexpressed emotion. Now that can sabotage something that our egoic self, and I don't mean that in a negative sense, I mean that in a positive sense, our egoic, our sense of personhood and selfhood, and on the goals of the person and the self, the deep primal body utilizing a present moment to try and that present moment can be anywhere. That could be like dinner table with the family. That could be a deep moment of love making, or just a conversation with intimate friends, or a business situation and opportunity. But there's something that can occur in these different situations in life that, again, our sense of self believes we're here for this reason, or we're here for this reason, or we're here for this reason. We're here to do a business deal. We're here to make love. We're here to, have this nice dinner. But actually the primal body is saying, no, this is an opportunity to release. This is an opportunity for that old emotion that was stuck in my body that I never processed consciously. This is an opportunity for it to come out. And the primal body has its own logic for why those situations are the appropriate time. But I love the reframe from, no one's trying to sabotage anything. Our body is wildly intelligent. And so we'll call it the primal body reframe. That just came up, but I love that idea. The primal body reframe of, our bodies are self-sustaining, life-seeking organisms. And part of health, vitality, and seeking life force is the body looks for opportunities to process and release what it has been holding. I just think that is such an incredibly beautiful way to look at the body and life, and ways where we may reframe situations where we were trying to create a connection, or trying to create an opportunity, or capitalize on an opportunity, where we were trying to self-actualize and birth our will into the world. And instead what happened was, as we were in the middle of trying to birth our will into the world, or make a connection, intimate connection with another person, we began to express, we'll call it undesirable emotions from an egoic standpoint, but just simply from a broader primal standpoint, stored unprocessed emotion in the body because the body thought it was a safe, appropriate situation to bring those emotions. And the emotions from the primal body that were stored may not have anything to do with the present situation, and thus you get the sense of sabotage or the sense of disconnect or the sense of something's really not working, right? So primal body mapping, going back to what you do and the medicine that you have refined for years and what you bring and what you're going to bring to our master tree diets, at least this year coming up. We're talking about Ojai in May. And for anybody watching, we have 2 weeks of master tree diets in Ojai, May 6th to 14th and May 14th to 22nd. And Maria will be facilitating primal body mapping in the mornings as the early first session of the day, so that each day while you're working with the master tree, you can come in, get a deep sense of where there are stored emotions in the body and have a safe, facilitated opportunity to release them. So I want to hear more about it, but some curiosity that I have is when, maybe this is just for everybody listening, because if anybody has made it this far, I'm sure they're curious about this approach and about this general frame of looking at themselves. So maybe without, talking specifically about the practices we'll be doing at our master tree diets, can you share like the most basic key or starting point for how to become aware of the emotions that we're holding in the body that are repressed or unprocessed, we'll say, because most of us, if we have them, maybe we're not even aware that they're there, and that's why they express in ways that are not neat and pleasant.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that comes up for me first when you ask that is really just taking off any pressure or assignment that there's an emotion that's repressed to find is number one. And it's really meeting the body with what's present now. And so I find that to be really supportive, because instead of coming with an agenda to look for something or find something,
Yep.
it starts with the simple invitation to just meet what's alive and what's present now.
Yep.
And I find that every time that is the initial invitation, it leads to a discovery that comes very naturally, I would say, like very naturally and authentically, which also then respects the system. Because if it's arising naturally and on its own, it means that the system is ready to resolve this. And it's not happening through force or through a lot of additional manipulation. Like, we're not rushing the process, which is a big part of this. So really just meeting the body, number one, and
So meeting the body, is that like learning how to scan your body? Is it a way of, centering yourself somewhere in your body and practicing that as you, go through your life? Like, what's the meeting the body? What's the core of meeting the body?
I think the core is, where's the sensation? And so that can be done through a scan. You can go through a scan from head to toes or toes to head and notice what stands out as far as a sensation or even a postural expression. Maybe it's not just a sensation, though it could be like, where is their discomfort and also where is their comfort? Where is their pleasantness? And then where is there, a sense of feeling disrupted and a little bit annoyed or aggravated? Where are those sensations in the body? But as I just said, the posture can also be one that we start with. So it's really quite simple. How is my body positioned? What does that feel like? What are the sensations in my body? What do they feel like? And where is most of my attention being pulled?
So it's like becoming adept at tracking sensation. And then I guess that in a way is the mapping component.
What I found is that you might start in one part of the body as the primary place of attention. And very often the mapping leads to a discovery of where the energy has actually been held, but it can be manifesting in a more obvious place. And that's part of that intelligence that you were kind of speaking to before. Like there is an intelligence that's containing energy for preservation and also waiting for an opportunity for resolution. And everything that happens, to your point, is not self-sabotage, but it is an attempt to come back into greater harmony. And for harmony to occur, that which is repressed and suppressed and held must come back into flow, must come back into expression.
Yep.
So with that, I have so often found that we start one place and it's like going a little bit on a maze and finding the key to the kingdom in a way.
So primal body mapping as a practice has to do with beginning to track sensation, staying with it through various parts of the body, while then, what? Like, is it just that as you track the sensation, the emotion will release? What does that part look like? Is because there's the mapping part, but then
Yeah, there's a practice here of staying with the physical experience and with the energetic experience. And why it's helpful to be guided through it is the mechanisms of the mind can come in and kind of take us out of that experience or take us into wanting to analyze and understand it. And the point here really is to be in the experience, in the sensation, in the energetic, emotional, even symbolic experience. So a lot of bodies will actually bring memories or symbols up to the surface when they're guided to continue staying with what's present in the now. So yeah, that in that sense, those symbols and those memories can be places to open, like a gift, unwrapping a gift. What does this symbol represent? What does it mean? Or what's in that memory that feels connected to this? And okay, back into sensation as you feel into that symbol or that memory. Where is the sensation now? Where is it moving? So there's always a tether back to what is real now in the physical body so that we avoid going into intellectualizing the process and making meaning of things that, so often we already know on a cognitive level. We might know like, oh, I have this pattern and it started here and this is why I do this. And then I attract this kind of person. But the point is to not do that because if the pattern is still showing up in our life, it's because something is still waiting for attention and resolution. And so the previously understood reason might come up as we're tracking sensation, seeing a symbol. And then as soon as it arises, we tether right back into where's the energy? What does it feel like? What does it remind you of? Where is it now? And that process leads us to that beautiful dot on the map of like, here's the place. Now the body's ready. And what's amazing about all of our bodies, speaking of the primal body, is they all know how to express emotion. None of us need a class in that. None of us actually need a reminder. We just need permission to come back to permission and a safe sense of, being held because all of these wounds are so often relational. So a
safe situation.
Yeah, a safe situation, whether that be the environment that we're in or the person that we're with or really all of the factors that create a sense of comfort and safety. But with that in place, none of us need to be told how to cry. The body knows how to cry. None of us need to be taught how to growl. If we're like angry, the body knows how to growl. And so it's really just holding that space for ourselves and someone else who can support that in a community who can support that while permissioning it. And then, the flow moves the energy and the intelligence does the rest.
So I love how primal body mapping is. And, I think you've communicated it clearly, but to recap, the the focus, the point, the purpose of primal body mapping is to become intelligent, conscious, and aware of how the body works to hold emotion and how the body can also free itself to increase its bandwidth. And a big part of like 99% of the practice is mapping and learning how to stay with sensation. And that's the mapping. So you're staying with sensation, not in the abstract sensations in your body. And you're staying rooted and tethered to the various aspects of your body as they change form and move. And then kind of as that process reaches a climax, your primal body will express in the way it wants to. And of course, the situation needs to be safe enough for the primal body to begin to have that full expression. So it's like a purge in a way. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's the beauty of having the facilitated space to do it. But once you learn how to do primal body mapping, you can totally do it on your own, on a floor in your house, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you can even step out of work and go behind a tree and do it to some extent, right? To really get into the core of, because life does that. You know, we might, again, where we started in this conversation, we might be in a situation in life where really strong emotion is coming up that does not match the situation at hand, right? You have an interplay with your boss or a colleague or something, and an enormous charge is coming up. And maybe there's something to be dealt with in the relationship at hand, but usually if a huge emotional charge is coming and the thing that's happening in the present situation can be dealt with a few clear, simple words, there's something that is totally no longer functional in our human being in that sense. We like get overtaken by the charge. And so learning how to have a practice like primal body mapping where you can take a moment and within 5 minutes you can begin to track what the heck is going on, where is this tethered in my body, and get to the root of what wants to express. Take a moment, express, come back to the situation at hand and speak to the truth of whatever needs to be dealt with without a charge that you're attaching to the present that actually comes from the past, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And for some who are more familiar with the word trigger, this is essentially what we're speaking about, right? Like the charge is the trigger. And many of us at this point may have heard this premise of like the trigger is always for us, and it's something that is triggering us because of our past, and it's actually wanting to teach us something. So that's another way to just say like the charge, or to use the label the trigger, when it feels inappropriate and unwarranted to the situation at hand, which is also something I just heard you say, like it doesn't match the situation at hand. Really, it might feel like it does emotionally, but if we really took that apart, it's like, oh, this is actually like a very charged level of this emotion in context to what's actually being discussed. Got it. There must be something here that's attempting to come up and to resolve itself. And so exactly what you're saying, like the ability to become self-aware of that, and then to have a tool to pair with that self-awareness is so life-giving and so supportive to what you said earlier, our ego manifesting itself and creating what it's here to create in this life with the guidance of our soul, so that we're not impeding that process.
I just love it so much. And, you know, in the community and in the way that we've been holding the master tree diets, I've leaned very heavily on tobacco as a, and again, for anyone listening who does not know explicitly what we're talking about, tobacco, when I speak about tobacco, we're speaking about herbal shamanic tobacco. It's a very pure form of tobacco from the Amazon. We cook it as a community, and it really facilitates the process in a way of I would almost say agitating or stimulating or activating held emotions to come up to the surface, right? So, and that's part of the purgative quality of tobacco, right? And you've worked quite a bit with tobacco at this point in this way. And I mean, I've seen hundreds of people go through this where they have, you know, pretty, relatively speaking, pretty small amounts of tobacco in these contexts, in these release contexts, these, healing protocol contexts. And it begins to trigger really, really deep stored emotion, really ancient, deep stored emotion. And while we're holding a space to process it and release it on your own, I have discovered over the 4 years of doing this, the last 4 years of serving this, that holding a more dedicated space for specifically emotional release work is in service to the broader work that we're doing with helping people self-actualize through working with the master tree medicine. And so that's where it fits in with the diet. And for me, the way I see that is weaving in more of the feminine, energy, more of the water energy, more of the energy of emotion, permissioning that in the master tree diets, permissioning that within the plant medicine context, and giving it a frame and a structure and a space so that in a way we code that into the community and we code that into ourselves as something we can integrate into life. And again, I find that it's enormously powerful. And since meeting you, I've begun to integrate more emotional release work and essentially primal body mapping into my daily understanding of how to work with myself. So it's an enormously powerful frame and type of intelligence to bring to one's life, whether you're a man or a woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I feel too, to say, as you're speaking this, it's like I can feel this collective nervousness around emotion that lives in our modern world. And what I really appreciate, and I feel like you've probably experienced this too in your touch points with it, is that this way of connecting and mapping in the body, it actually doesn't become this big, overwhelmingly chaotic release of emotion. There's actually like a delicacy and a softness and a subtlety to it, because so often the emotions that erupt and are chaotic are because there's a need, a really primal need that's saying like, no more, and I will get this out.
Yep. Yep.
And when we meet the body and say, I'm here to support you in moving with the energies and to connect to what wants to clear, it's actually much more feminine, is both chaotic and powerful and strong and also subtle. But in this way, it's that tone of the feminine that is more subtle, is more nurturing, is more yin in a sense. And I find that is really balancing, because we all live in a very young world, like a lot of fire, a lot of movement, a lot of speed. And so it's not to say that there can't be these big moments of healing and clearing. But I can feel how so often in the field, humans might be nervous about that being the way to release emotion and connect. And I find that most often the experience is actually really, really watery. And where there is fire, it's like really the alchemical fire in the body burns it, and realization comes, and actually more like strength and power comes, rather than this like huge thing that moves through us that we're not able to ride the wave of. So that's something I hadn't really thought so much about before we were in this moment here together. And I'm bringing that in because I do feel that that's such a lovely way to restore our relationship to emotion and to start to relate to what it can be like to reconnect to something that many of us, I was this way, many of us have become intimidated by, and to realize it's actually such a loving force that is waiting to return to our senses and to our physiology. And there's a lot of nurturing that is available to us through meeting emotion and meeting sensation in the body in this way.
I love that, that it doesn't have to be a dramatic outburst. It can be.
It can
if
be,
that's
if it
what's
absolutely
needed.
needs
Yeah.
to. There's a lot of that, of course, is okay. And again, it won't feel bigger than the individual because it will be honest and true. And I just feel it's important to say, because in this season and era of the world that has begun to really show more practices and depictions of emotional release
Yep.
that are really permissioning and actually empowering, and I think have been healing. I think it can also give an image that to have an emotional clearing is just that. It's like very big, and it's a both and. And when we work really subtly and gently, the container of our beingness and our body and our structure and our nervous system can stay present with what wants to move, and therefore is very life-giving and integrative all at the same time. It's like we don't need to go integrate from the experience. It's integrative as a result of how it's experienced.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think the thing that I'm getting from you as you express that and communicate that and share that is it is almost semi-traumatic when we are in that mode of being in the world and having an experience in the world that we think is one thing, and then we get triggered and a deep emotion from the past comes, and it feels like there is the ego's repression mechanism going like, no, don't come out right now. And the body's going like, no, this is my primal intelligence, this is an opportunity, I want to release this. And the ego is going, no, I'm not ready, this isn't the right time or the right place. It creates an enormous amount of pressure, right? And tension, internal tension. And that experience feels, it almost amplifies everything. And when you're in a context and situation where you're in full tracking of your body, it creates so much internal safety that the tension goes way down, way down. There's not the extra tension being created. And that allows the purity of the emotion to come through. And that actually might be quite soft. It might be quite gentle. And in that way, there could be almost like, I think what you said was, it doesn't feel like the emotion is bigger than the body because you're so connected to the body that you realize that the emotion is inside the body and the body is surrounding it and containing it. And so in that, there's just, again, there's an enormous level of consciousness and safety brought to emotions that a part of us is repressing because we don't know how to find or resource a space to release it. And so it feels like it's going to destroy everything, right? And if we were to let it out, that it's going to burn the house down, when in actuality, that feeling is a secondary effect of repression because we're like, no, don't come up, right? So I think that's a super interesting reality of this and why it's so important for self-healing work. And, you know, what the way we talk about self-healing work in this community is self-healing work is self-actualization work. For those who are self-actualizing and who are birthing dreams and goals and big visions into the world, I don't know of anyone who's going to do that without doing self-healing work. You're going to have to meet your demons, quote unquote, so to speak. You're going to have to meet your repressed emotions and your unprocessed experiences, so to speak. You're going to need to meet the quote unquote curses or very entangled patterns in the family constellation in order to self-actualize your dreams and your visions and your goals. And so self-healing work is self-actualization work. And to self-actualize, you need all the bandwidth and all the capacity that you can possibly summon from your human being. A huge part of that bandwidth is taken up by our unprocessed emotions. And we're not going to get into this today, but you can also be carrying the unprocessed emotions of your parents and your lineage,
Totally.
right? Because if they don't process them, and this is what a holding pattern is, right? If they don't process them, they create a holding pattern around them, and the holding pattern will get passed. So you get taught, oh, that's how I hold myself, even if the original emotion is not present. So the holding patterns get passed. This is a whole other level of processing, which I think we'll get into another time. But are there any other pieces that you want to share with, with anyone watching about primal body mapping, emotional release, emotional expression, and self-healing and self-actualization, how all of that aligns?
I feel what's just left to say is how complimentary is the word it feels to bring that in to a tree diet. I was just going over a bunch of notes from the 3 tree diets that I've been present for and been a guardian on, at least 2 of them, and then present for another. And I was looking back over my notes of all of the teachings that were, yeah, in the field from those that were dieting, also in connecting with the trees themselves. And so, in recounting that and then having this conversation with you, I just really feel how complementary they are and how supportive it is to bring in something like this mapping, because so much of my experience with being in those spaces is how the tree works on the energy and also works on the physical body. And when we can be in even deeper collaboration with that energy and with our own intelligence, that's then being magnified by the intelligence of a plant, I feel really excited to discover, yeah, what is going to arise from that. It just feels like it's a really beautiful weaving that we're getting to bring to the diets. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm excited. And, this will be the first time we offer this kind of work at a master tree diet. And I'm just really excited for it. I'm excited you're going to be with us. So,
Me too.
again, for anybody watching, May 6th to 14th or May 14th to 22nd, we have 2 sessions. And for the diehards, you can, of course, do both of them. Some people will be. We'll have oak, white birch, and metasequoia on offer. Metasequoia is the elder of the sequoia family, one of the eldest trees on earth. And you'll choose one and diet that tree throughout the week alongside little activations from herbal tobacco. And the medicine is profound. It's profound. It's changed my life. It's my primary journey. And maybe we'll get on here and talk about that again soon. But I just wanted to create the space to open up primal body mapping and let people see into what we're going to get up to.
Yeah. Thank you for that. It's been really interesting to be in this dialogue with you, to go deeper, because you and I have had conversations and experiences of it, and I have it in my world with clients and with groups, but to bridge this more intimately into your container, this shared experience, these diets, and to expand upon that, it's really energizing.
Thanks for tuning in to Sacred Tree Keepers, everyone. If you're resonating with what we're talking about here, you can tune in at sacredtreekeepers.com and like and subscribe. Follow for more. We'll be back soon.